if you don't understand how much thoughts drive things, you don't know all the little ways this is affecting your organization and how much better it could be. If you've got those systems in place, the systems and processes, and they're working pretty well for you, that's low hanging fruit. Get a good understanding of how the mind works and how you can expand, and then you can start working on your people in a different way.
Ever looked at a blueprint and thought, this is just the beginning of something incredible? Welcome to the Inner Blueprint Podcast, where we believe the most extraordinary builds start with you.
I'm Shawn Feurer,
the Universal Mindset Disruptor.
For over 2 decades, I've turned simple plans into remarkable realities in the home improvement world. Now, I'm here to help you do the same for your life and for your business. Make sure to take some notes, and most importantly, enjoy the ride. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Inner Blueprint, the podcast for the home improvement industry, and actually anybody who's looking to get better in results in their life by thinking better thoughts. You know, we do focus with guests that come from the industry that I grew up in, that I'm so, grateful and happy for, the home improvement space. But everybody that I've ever worked with in any space, we all have these self-limiting beliefs. We all have these ideas that were given to us, maybe as children, maybe as teenagers, that at some point we realize they might be holding us back. And what's really cool about the mindset world that we live in is we're able to remove those. We're able to help people take their businesses and their lives to the next level. And I am beyond excited for today's guest. He's a dear friend of mine. He's a longtime client. He's done a lot of work with mindset as well as business process. He's been in the home remodeling and construction industry since 1994 when he ran a residential painting franchise to pay for college. That led to learning all the functions of an exterior remodeling business, specializing in windows, siding, and roofing. He built and sold one remodeling business before spending a couple of years building custom homes, but he discovered his real passion was for helping people with their exteriors and also with helping people in general. So he started a new remodeling company in 2010. In 2012, he expanded by purchasing Pond Roofing, which he runs today in the Virginia suburbs of Washington, D.C. Today's guest believes in building people. I almost gave it away who it is. Believes in building people from the inside so they can do great things on the outside. And he's done this with himself. He spends most of his time today helping others get more out of what they want out of life. And I know he's going to drop some nuggets, some bombs today for listeners. Get ready to expand your mind. Get ready to attract some better things into your life. And please welcome to Inner Blueprint, my friend, Patrick Readyhough. What's up, Pat?
What is up, Shawn? I love that intro that you read that I wrote for myself.
Yeah, it's some good.
It's amazing. You put things down on paper, and then when you hear somebody else say them, you're like, "Yeah, man, shit, I did that."
Yeah. Well, and I didn't mention what an amazing husband, father, friend, mentor you are, because you can say all those amazing things, but you are. And I've had the pleasure of spending some time in your home with your family, and not only you created a beautiful business, you created a beautiful life, and I'm excited to dive in. How did you do it, man? How did you do it?
How did I do it? You introduced me to the the term unconscious competent when we first started talking. And so that was part of it, right? It's like, I remember being like out of college and just having this vision for like what I wanted my life to be someday. Like I wanted to have a job where I had an excuse to have a pickup truck, and I wanted a white farmhouse on some land, and I wanted a pretty wife and some kids and some dogs and animals, and pictured myself driving up this long driveway and spending the weekend on the boat and having a cool car in the garage. And it's just like, all right, how do I get there? And I didn't know how. I just started going and found very slowly my way. And then in the last few years, found resources to help me build my business. And ultimately led me to you, So I think
I love it. And listeners, what he just described he wanted as a young man, he actually has today. I've driven up the long driveway. I've spent time with beautiful kids and his wife. And other than the lake, we haven't done that yet. But he just described in his maybe early 20s, he knew what he wanted, and he's now done it. And yeah, so when we first met, you already had a pretty successful business. you were attending contractor events, getting good information. I was
Yep.
in one of those events, and it really is interesting because you reached out to me at the time, and we're looking for some business type coaching. And how'd that
And
conversation go?
Well, you said, well, I don't really do that, but here, call these guys at CCN. And I didn't feel I was ready for that, which no contractor ever does. It's always like, well, get to that later. And you said, but here's what I am doing. I'm coaching mindset because I've spent too many years coaching contractors on process and they don't get out of their own way. So I can give them all the greatest tools and things fall apart quickly because their mind's not open to change and all the things that you need. And what was funny about it was at the time I was literally like this close to hitting buy on like a week at a Tony Robbins conference because I've always been a student of mindset and self-improvement. You read the books and it's like you take a couple nuggets and you apply them to your life and you do the best you can. And I just felt like, man, if I could go immerse myself in this for days, how awesome, like I maybe supercharge my mind. And you were offering a 26-week program to get that spaced repetition of thought. And let's really, ingrain this in. And I was like, well, that's it. I'm in. That's the ticket. Like, forget Tony. I need Shawn. And so we did. Yeah. So we did that. And I felt immediately identified with all of the information, right? Like it was, I could see things working immediately. I had already started a little daily gratitude process. And when you right off the bat, you were like, listen, you got to start your day with gratitude. I was like, sweet. I've got that going. How do we make that better? Setting up a worthy goal, writing down affirmations every day, which I do recall feeling like, affirmations. What is this? Stuart Smiley or whatever his name was, Stuart Smalley. I'm like,
yeah.
It felt a little weird, but I'm a practical guy. So when you walk me through the logic of it, it's like, hey, look, there's some thoughts getting in your way. Let's figure out what those are, and we just need to program the opposite. And I was like, oh man, okay, I can get behind that. That makes sense.
That sounds too easy too at some level as well, right? I mean, I don't act that way. That sounds way too easy. It can't be that easy.
Sometimes the easy way makes the most sense, right? It's not some big fanciful thing, It's like it's very simple logic. And I mean, what I've discovered with that is that and you talk about this, and then you can read books that talk about this idea that like whatever we think about is whatever our thoughts are that are floating through our mind are going to become beliefs, and that's going to cause us to choose action. Like no actions that we take, whether we say something or have another thought or go do something, nothing happens without us having a thought first, right? Then it's something, and it could be a subconscious thought or a conscious thought. Either way, there's a thought that's guiding that action, and whatever we do multiple times, that's our habits, right? And whatever you do habitually is going to yield you results. So it's like, all right, well, what are the results I'm getting? Am I happy with those, or am I not? If I'm not happy with those, what are my thoughts? Like, go backwards, right? What am I doing? What habits am I having around this? What actions am I choosing? What are my beliefs around this? And so what are the thoughts that are starting that chain? And if those thoughts aren't serving me towards my results that I want, better just change them.
Yes.
And sometimes it takes a little bit for guys that come through the group to understand that, but like that is what's at the core of this is
yes.
Something's guiding me and these thoughts. And if I'm not having a thought, sometimes we have thoughts, we call them paradigms, right? The paradigms are the programs, right, that are guiding us. Sometimes we say, well, I better just change all my thoughts. And no, hold on. You have some thoughts that serve you, right?
Yes.
Like I want to do right by people. That thought serves me well. Now you could do that to your detriment sometimes.
Yes, that could be a super and a super weakness when you take it.
So sometimes there are some other thoughts around that that could be messing you up. But that core thought is that's a good motivation for doing something, but what else is attached to it? So anyway, if we skip forward a little bit, what I've found is that like through doing this program and putting it into practice every day, I've become very aware. The awareness is the key. I'm aware of my thoughts always, right? I'm aware, is that an emotion coming up? Should I use that emotion right now? Maybe I shouldn't, right? Somebody asked me a question, a few different thoughts come through my head. All right, is some of that answer guided by the wrong thoughts that aren't going to serve me well later? Like maybe I'm mad. If I take action in that moment based on that thought, that's not going to serve me well.
And what happens when Pat gets mad? And before you had this awareness, there were times in the past when you were young and spunky and full of piss and vinegar, right? What would happen when you would get mad and not have the conscious awareness that it was coming and just take action? What kind of things would come up for you?
Well, first and foremost, I took myself to a stage that that kind of energy flowing through your through your veins is not nice, right? Like it takes hours to clear the toxicity, right? So that's the number one. I might say something that doesn't sit well with my wife or my kid or an employee or a customer maybe, and I have a strong personality, right? And I think pretty fast, and I'm pretty focused, especially in those types of situations. So I probably steamrolled some people and left them feeling bad about themselves, even without saying something like, even without cussing somebody. I'm sure I said something pretty cutting.
Yes.
To get my point across, and maybe I got my way in that moment, and so I won the little battle. But I'm off track in the war.
Long-term repercussions of that too.
Long-term repercussions for sure. Like maybe they don't want to deal with me anymore or something. Or, and thankfully, like I never really had a lot of problems with anger. Okay, but I controlling things for sure. It's like if I was I started a company as a one-man band. I had to do all of it. Yes. When I bought Pond, I was the sales manager, the production, I was installation director, sales director, marketing director, director of accounting, and I had good people doing things within that. But like, if I wanted to affect change, I had to be the guy that like figured out the plan and then got everybody on board and got everything changed. And meanwhile, I was running around still selling stuff or running out to a job site to make this customer happy. So I had to control things in that, and then you kind of start hiring people to help you with these things. And if you don't get your mind into a better place to let go and let them start doing the things, then what's the point, right? Like you have to.
When you so many small business owners especially get in the way of the growth because they hire employees and then push them all away because they're so used to, and that's a subconscious program, right? And for you,
right.
And early on in this episode, you said I called you an unconscious competent. An unconscious competent, for listeners, it's somebody who has success and does a lot of things right, but doesn't have a conscious awareness of what those things are. And Pat, through his journey, has become very aware. He's good at creating action. He's good at inspiring people. Those are good things, but he had to get better at getting out of the way, right? Because he's so good at making things happen. It's sometimes hard to let other people make it happen for you. And that's been the new awareness. So you've now become a conscious competent that's fully conscious of how your mind works, how your feelings affect your thoughts, and then how those go out and affect your actions. So maybe speak a little bit more to that, because it's been really fun to watch your business grow, your people grow, and just see how you're celebrated by your employees. I work with a lot of your employees, and they have so much respect and love for you, which is what we all want as business owners and as husbands and as fathers. We're just looking for that love. We work our asses off. We put it all on the line every day some thank yous and some admiration would be cool. And you're getting a lot of that, I think. And I love that for you. And I love seeing how you've created that.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that I think you go through different phases, right? Especially if you've done the work on yourself and because let's face it, not all contractors are doing that, right? There's like, oh, I got to get better processes, and they try to muscle a process into place without thinking about the people. Um, at some point, and this goes back to unconscious competent, I was doing things just not realizing what to call them. And if you don't know what to call it, it's hard to identify how to do more of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always, I do this motion with my hand where I go like this. I feel like this is my job, is to just constantly be explaining the why, to show it. Here's the vision. And when yes, I'm the visionary in an organization, but that doesn't mean that I just sit around like throwing ideas into the air, right? Like I'm big on why. I understand that if I can communicate the vision and why and how that's going to be better for everybody and how that's going to get them more of what they want out of life and in all areas of their life. And I can just keep going around and sweeping it along. Come on, come along. Let me remind you of this thing. Like,
I love
like
that.
that's my mission here on earth, is to do that within this contracting business. Like I can affect change through my contracting business, the people there, the customers, whatever. So my whole staff knows this. They go, because I'm always going, it's like, we just got to go down there and tell the guys. And so they all know that, like, that's Pat's job. He does this.
Yeah.
Sweeps it along. So, I think that, now, because, well, as you work with multiple of my people. I've got, we implemented EOS. Actually, let's go back a little bit.
Yeah.
I hired you. Well, I say hired you. That sounds funny, but like I signed on for the program. Then you did a little bit of business coaching with me, to get me set in a direction on a few things. And then it was time to revisit a larger coaching organization that has like lots of resources. So I looked at like CCN and BTA, and I ended up signing on with BTA because what I really needed was help organizing processes, and because I came from the painting franchise world in the college, I really identified with the guys at Breakthrough Academy because that's where those founders came from, was the student painting organizations. Yeah. And their whole what they were pitching was, hey, let us help you apply a franchise model to your existing business. Like, we don't want to change how you do business. Let's just help you organize it and document it, get your, and they have a cadence of meetings, which very closely resembles EOS. So after a couple years of having them help me with the coaching and get things organized, I then built a management team, a leadership team, and then we implemented EOS.
Mm-hmm.
Because we needed the real deal, right? But actually the Breakthrough Academy guys pointed me in that direction because they saw how I wanted to do things. And I'll tell you, Shawn, if I hadn't done your program first, it wouldn't have gone as well as it has. Like, we've gotten this leadership team over the last year. We've made so many great changes, and every month, if you ask my staff and, all the team members, they're like, man, we did all that last month and it just didn't seem that stressful. It wasn't that tough.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and it's because we've got a leadership team firing who understands framing things for people and understands, their own thoughts on what's going on. And they can see when somebody else might be having some thoughts that aren't really serving them very well, and help rein them back in and say, hey, look, what, especially Anthony, my sales director, right? Yeah. He's been in this information for a few years with us now.
Mm-hmm.
And he and I have this great synergy now where, like, because we both understand being aware of thoughts, we can help, especially the sales team, get aware of their own thoughts. But we, talk about wanting to, all right, how do we supercharge this? Here's Anthony and I wander around trying to like drip this on the guys, have miniature conversations. No, that's not enough. Bring in the big guns. So, that's why we brought you out in February, right? It's like, no, yes. we need the man himself in person, 2 days, mindset for sales. It was so awesome. We got a guy that, and you've heard this, but like, we got that one guy, Nate, who's just so on fire because once he heard you talking about what Anthony and I were trying to do with mindset for sales and everything, it was like it opened up this gate of thoughts for him that like, oh, I can be myself. If he thinks of himself as like the black sheep,
Yeah.
and he's on fire and he's putting up huge months and he's into his process like he's never been before. And he's, helping coach the other guys and telling them, guys, you're thinking about this all wrong. Like, change your thoughts. You're showing up at a house and you're prejudging the appointment, prejudging the house, and you're thinking all this stuff. Just show up and do your process.
Yes. Get the mind junk out of there, right?
Get the mind junk out of there, man. You have to have your mind set on winning.
Yes.
Set it here. I'm winning. I'm showing up. These people need me.
This is a good lead. This is a good neighborhood. No matter what the lead source, no matter what the neighborhood, right? I loved how he responded to the material, and he was already a good salesperson, right? And he already had some process he was using. He's just and I love how Pat said that. We talked about this a lot. Mindset is 2 words. He changed his mindset point on some different things in his sales. Now, Pat, I want to push on this one a little bit because I think for listeners, I've worked with a lot. In fact, a majority of people I work with, they've spent 10, 15 years attending industry events, signing up for different programs, getting a lot of good information, and then finding they're not able to implement it and not realizing they're the problem. And they meet me and they say, oh my God, I'm the problem. They get out of their way. And now everything they've spent the last 15 years working on starts to work and implement. Your journey, you and I were connected before you were ready for. So you did the mindset work. You understood how your mind works. You understand how other people's mind works. You understand how to close the gap of information, knowing to actually using information. How has that helped you with the Breakthrough Academy, with EOS? How is having your mind first? And then secondly, I'd like you to speak to people that already have the systems. How can it help them now? Like if they don't have to work with me, they can read books on mindset. They can listen to Tony Robbins. There's so much good information on the subconscious mind. But kind of talk us through that a little bit from your perspective, because you have such a valuable way of looking at things.
I think I'm going to talk to the second point first, right? Which is like, oh, you already got the systems and they're working, so I don't need you. Well, here's the thing. If you don't understand how much thoughts drive things, then you don't know all the little ways this is affecting your organization and how much better it could be. If you've got those systems in place, the systems and processes, and they're working pretty well for you, that's low-hanging fruit. Get a good understanding of how the mind works and how you can expand, and then you can start working on your people in a different way, right? Helping them do the mindset work inside so that like they're just that much better with the processes, right? That's I start there because that is the low-hanging fruit, right? Like now, okay, if you got you're nowhere on this. Here's a couple ways. Here's a couple examples of how this has helped me. So like, you and I were talking about this not too long ago, maybe earlier today. My sales director, Anthony, and I, right? He's been a sales rep at my company for a while. I've known him all his life. We used to sit around in my office and we'd spend hours talking about like bigger, how do we do this and that? And we'd lose track of ideas because we didn't have EOS or any way to capture that. But he wasn't a sales director. And then one day he asked me, he said, hey, you keep talking about this mindset stuff and you're dripping it on me. He's like, how do I get some of that? And I said, just there. You asked the question. You're in. I'll put you through the program and you'll learn it. And he took to the information and then we would talk about it. And so now we have such a synergy because we both are so aware of how much thought matters that we can very easily sit there and identify, okay, that sales rep over there, he's got some problems with some thoughts around this, that, or the other. And here's how we can help him. And so then we can grab that guy. But one of the moments, it seems so silly that it made me feel like, oh man, I got goosebumps because it's like, oh, we're really there. Was we had a sales meeting. Anthony became the sales director in February, and it was just a few weeks ago we had a sales meeting, and we hit a bunch of topics. And I was at that meeting, and I was sitting up at the front with Anthony. I kept jumping in and explaining some things. And afterwards, we were talking about a few things, and Anthony said to me, he says, "Hey, and boss, I do need one thing from you." I said, "What's that, Anthony?" He said, "I need you to not jump in so quick and say so much stuff at the sales meetings. I need you to let some things marinate and let the guys ask the questions, and then we can explain, I need." And so he said it respectfully, of course, because he has tact. But what was awesome was that Anthony felt comfortable saying that.
Yes.
How many organizations out there that look like mine and the customers, your clients, it's like the sales manager would never say that because they're worried they're going to piss somebody off. And on the other hand, the owner of the company would be offended.
Yeah.
They'd be like, well, whatever, man, this is
my company.
It's my company.
Yes.
Yeah. And you know what? 5 years ago, if I had said, "Anthony, you're the sales manager now," and he said that to me, I would have said, "Yeah, you know what? You're right. I don't want to step on your toes. But you know what else, Anthony? If you don't say it, I'm going to step in." And I don't say that today because I do know that he's right. He would have gotten to it. And I probably 5 years ago would have had some emotion around that, like.
Yeah, like you were wrong, like he was making you wrong, and he wasn't making you wrong. He was just correcting for him what would work better.
Yeah, I might have had some other thoughts about it. But I sat there and I thought, first thought was, how awesome is it that our relationship is in this place where he can just say that to me? And then second, he said it and I had no emotion at first. And then the emotion that did came up was
a good one.
A good one. Like, look how freaking awesome this is. This is where we're at. It's working. The plan is working. I have an awesome company. I have an awesome team, and I've got a leadership team that can operate in this way. How great is that? And so I find little moments like that. I'm putting a couple, like 2 production coordinators and a sales onboarding specialist. We're doing a Jocko Willink extreme ownership leadership class.
Sports, yeah.
And on Thursdays at 2:30, we reviewed the lesson for the week. And, we have the awesomest conversations because like I'm aware of my thoughts around it and I can see them and help coach them through their thoughts about it. It's like somebody says, well, the problem is the sales team, this and that, and I can pull apart like, well, what are your thoughts really about that? And then walk them back through the steps, right? Mm-hmm. Hey, you've been letting that thought rattle around in your head, which led you to believe this. And so you're taking this action. You are afraid to say something to the sales guy about him not having his paperwork right because of the way he reacted one time. And now that's driving your action and your habit. And what's your result? The result is sometimes on installation day, you get a big shit burger in your lap.
Yes. And again, you passed the steps earlier. Something happens, you have a thought about what happened, and if you didn't like it, you have a negative thought, which creates a negative feeling, which creates a negative action that reinforces the negative result. And this is the definition of insanity in most home improvement businesses, is most people aren't consciously aware of the thought and the feeling. They're just stuck in the action and result they don't like over and over again. And that's where we get stuck. And that's where Pat's done an amazing job of his awareness and then sharing his awareness with his team and his wife and his family and his kids. Pat, do you mind sharing your big goal, your worthy goal, and even talk about how at first you were hesitant to share it and now you love sharing it, kind of that process for you?
Well, yeah, I was hesitant at first because I painted this picture of what I want. Like if everything can be just go the way I'm dreaming it.
Yeah.
It's that we own a 100-acre equestrian facility in Virginia Hunt Country, which if you know this area, there's a couple parts of a couple counties where there's big horse farms and it's beautiful and it's not cheap to live there,
Yeah,
and
what's the price tag? I mean, do you have a valuation?
I want 100 acres. It's $4 million.
Yeah.
With a house on it.
Yeah.
And some equestrian stables and stuff like that, But I I write this down every day. I'm so happy and grateful now that we own a 100-acre equestrian facility in sometimes I say Middleburg because I really like that town, but in general, it's Virginia Hunt Country. Our businesses, more than one, run themselves like franchises, allowing me to spend my days outside and shaping the minds of others because I really feel good about that. I do what I want when I want with who I want, and I love it. 100 freaking acres, right? So every morning I write this thing down. So I hold that in my mind because I need to know where I'm going.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I daydream as I write it because I'm thinking of that 100 acres and I'm thinking about the 9 different paddocks that I have. And I'm thinking of my porch that overlooks my, paddock number 7. And there's going to be a horse out there when I'm drinking my coffee in the morning. So I only have to write the one sentence that brings up all these images in my mind of this place that I want to have. And then when I talk about, like, I don't want to franchise my business, but I use the word franchise because that means I have an organized business that runs like clockwork, that has all the stuff. Like that one word has a lot of imagery in my mind that I've attached to it. And then I love being outside. I'd rather spend all day outside coaching people on how to do, on mindset within my company, right? Like coaching them up on, how to do their jobs better, and how to make their lives better. So that's that.
So that's your big goal, right?
That's my big goal.
What's your daily process to support that? What's your daily process to get your mind set right?
Daily process for that is, I get up and try to get out for a walk and sometimes I used to do. My dog's got a limp now. I used to take my dog for a walk, and
I love to hear about the talks with Rick.
I would talk to the dog. My neighbors probably thought I was crazy, but the real meat of it now is while I'm eating some eggs and drinking some coffee, I write down a few key things, and it takes me less than 5 minutes to write it all. First thing is that worthy goal. We also call it our inner blueprint. I write that out. It's a few sentences, and I let the imagery come into my mind as I write it. Because then I have some emotion about it. Like and then I write a prompt. I am grateful for, and then I pick like 6 or 7 things that I'm grateful for. Of course, my wife and my kids. One thing I'm grateful for every day is my infinite mind, because my infinite mind is ever growing and expanding and allows me to do and create all these things. So I'm always very grateful for that. And then I write a list of affirmations. The affirmations are typically just what are the things I'm working on at that moment. If we're having some challenges with people, maybe, and maybe a new team member who doesn't quite understand our culture yet, and I'm having to massage that along, I might write that I'm a competent servant leader, and I'm always, look, I'm bad with time sometimes, right? So it's like I'm a ruthless manager of my time.
I love it. I am a ruthless manager of my time. That's one you've been using for a while, right?
It's like I got to constantly remind myself of that. So those change every like 30 to 60 days, depending on what is coming up in my life, what thoughts I've identified that I'm like, that's getting in the way of me being successful here. And then something that I added not too long ago, and I do it verbally with my children, and it's been a game changer. It's really awesome. Is I write a prompt. Today I'm looking forward to, and then I choose, it's not like, oh, I'm looking forward to lunch, right? Like my kids wanted to say, I'm looking forward to lunch or gym class or practice. And I let them get away with that for a couple weeks when we started this. But I said, hey, why don't you pick something that maybe you're not really looking forward to? And because the outcome is unknown, it's up in the air. Like you have to take a test that you're not sure how you're going to do on. And why don't we say, I'm looking forward to acing my chemistry test. I want you to think of like what's going to challenge you today, and I want you to look forward to a positive outcome to that challenge. So if I'm feeling like I'm kind of dreading having this conversation with Anthony about the sales numbers. I'm just making something up.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to a great sales meeting with Anthony to get the sales numbers back on track. I'm writing that down
I love
because
that. That's reframing. That's a term in psychology, right? Reframing an anxious situation and creating exciting. It takes the negative emotion out of it and puts positive into it, and then you set the intent. I was listening to Ed Milet a while ago on a podcast. They talked about every time he goes to dinner with his kids, as they walk in, he frames it. This is going to be the best dinner and the best night we've ever had. And just by saying that, he creates better evenings with his children.
Better energy.
Yes.
So that's what we do. So in the morning, I shout out to my kids. I say, Sam, it's going to be a great day, Sam. And he says, it's going to be a great day, Dad. And I say, what are you looking forward to? And he has to tell me. And then I hit my daughter. And sometimes I hit Cindy. Generally, it's like I want to make sure the kids are leaving the house to jump in the car. Sam's driving them. That last touch is like something positive. We're looking forward to something. It's going to be a great day. Here's what I'm looking forward to. And so now I write that, and it's really helpful.
So you start the day, some good food, some good nutrition. You get outside and get some fresh energy, some fresh air when you can. You write your goal, the big goal. And if you guys listening don't have a big goal, get a big goal. We don't really talk about that today, but you should have something you're chasing. Pat writes about it every day. He thinks about it. He then does gratitude every single day. He doesn't just think about gratitude. He writes about it. And then he writes affirmations, trying to affirm qualities, experiences into his day. And at the end of that, Pat, how do you feel?
At the end
of your process
of my morning? Well, you know what? I mean, let's face it, Shawn, this on any given day, there can be a lot of challenges in life, in anybody's life, but especially as a business owner, or even if you're just in sales in this business or something, like there's a lot of stuff. Like there's a lot of challenges every day. And I'd love it if I could say that my first thought every day is like total optimism and it's going to be, but we have to tell ourselves this, right? We have to, I like to say sometimes, hey, you fake it till you make it, even if it's just between when you get out of bed and when you're eating your breakfast, because here's the thing about our brain. Well, first of all, to answer your question, when I'm done, I always feel better because now I've set myself on a course. Right. And that's the reason why the big goal is important. Is it's not so much like your program isn't really supposed to just be like some goal setting program. Like, let me just figure out how I can get more stuff. It's a piece of the puzzle. And you have to start there because it's like, what are the results that I want? And now who's the person I got to be to have all that?
Yeah. The growth in me to achieve what I'm visual.
Yeah. Yes. If I want to have all that, who is that guy or that girl? What do they think? What are the actions they're taking? And then the program teaches us how to be aware of those things and take it apart. Right. So that's why the big goal. So, but here's the thing about the fake it till you make it and doing this process in the morning is our brain, our subconscious mind, or our mind in general, let's say, right? It wants to prove whatever thoughts you're having are true.
Yes.
It cannot disprove them, right? So if I say I am Shawn Feurer when I get up in the morning, there's no way during the day my brain's going to tell me you're not Shawn Feurer. It's going to deliver to me proof that maybe I am Shawn Feurer, right? So same with like, oh, I'm terrible at sales or I'm good at sales. Whatever thoughts you're having, your mind wants to prove that that's true and it's going to deliver evidence to you, right? Yeah. So if I get up in the morning and I say, oh man, it's going to be a tough day. I got to have this tough conversation and I'm not sure how that's going to go. And I'm really not that good at dealing with the people part of this job. I just want to spread goodness. And if I, because I've had those thoughts, and if I have those thoughts in the morning, that doubt, then all morning before I even have that important meeting, I'm going to have little shit that comes up with other employees where my brain goes, see that? You see what happened there? there's
You're
proof that you're a terrible
right.
leader.
You're
Yeah,
right. You're terrible.
you're right.
You're right.
You're
You just
suck
fired.
at this. Yeah.
Yes.
So if it's just that simple, why not start my day choosing thoughts that I know will serve me well?
Yeah.
I'm a competent servant leader, things like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I love about this too is you're using this for yourself. You're sharing with your business. But you talked about as a business owner, we go into a tough world. As a teenager in today's world,
Oh my
oh
God.
my God. And I love that you shared. I mean, Pat sent me videos of his daughter doing her affirmations. He asked them how is it going to be a good day. He'll ask them how they're going to leave an impression of increase. And he not only gets himself in a good vibration to go out into the challenging world, he gets both his children in a good vibration to go out in the challenging world. And I love that about you. And I take notes, even as you're talking, man. I'm going to implement some of that. I love what you're doing with your kids.
It'd be great for you to do with your bonus daughters, right?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
They're teenage girls.
Yes.
I mean, all teenagers need help, but I feel like teenage girls, they're so mean to each other. They struggle so much. So like anything we can do to like bolster their mindset before they leave the house, right? Like,
Yes.
they tend to be more likely to look for their happiness in other people's approval.
Really?
And it's like, hey, whatever that person says about you, it doesn't change your value. I mean, my daughter and I have this conversation all the time. She'll come home from soccer practice and it's like, coach told me I did work on this and work on that. And she'd be mad as if the coach said that she sucked at soccer and that somehow changed her value. Yeah. And I was like, listen, nobody changes your value except for you. And it's really hard to change your value, right? Like we have a certain value just being here.
Yes.
On earth. And so I was like, now let's look at it the other way. Here's your thought on this should be, well, if coach is talking to me about how I can do something better, then he sees you as worthy to coach. He sees that you can make that improvement. He sees that you have the GW to see. You get it, you want it, and you have the capacity.
Yes.
If he's not talking to you, then he thinks you're a waste of time. Yeah, then you do suck.
Yeah.
But that even still, that doesn't change your value, right? So like, let's not take it personally.
It's funny. I don't know. So my bonus Tally, she's 15. She goes to a very big high school. A lot of peer pressure, a lot of the social things that go on. And her and I have talked a lot about that she's enough, that she's always enough. That when she just shows up, and one morning not that long ago, we pulled up to the school and we were having a moment before she got out of the car, and I looked over and I said, "You remember what you have in common with every other kid where because all these kids are falling past the car?" And she goes, "Yeah." She goes, "They all just want to be enough too." And I said, "Yes." And I love setting off about awareness. So when someone is mean to you or someone comes at you, that's just because they're not enough and they're trying to find some enoughness in this world. And giving her that awareness is just, I mean, she's such a light in this world. And
well the funny thing, and the thing is, like, that's a gift you gave to me, Shawn, was like, I always felt like I was a pretty confident guy. But when you get into this work and you start becoming aware, there's actually a point where you're like, you start freaking out because you're like, holy shit, I didn't realize how many negative thoughts I was actually having. Like I didn't realize how the ways in which I'm not confident, or the ways in which I don't feel that I'm worthy of the success that I'm having,
or how hard you start on yourself in general, just beating yourself up with negative affirmations that are programmed into you, right?
That's right. But you start to find these ways, and you're like, the awareness makes it easy to fix it, but it still doesn't feel good at first. And then you have to be aware of that thought and say, but you know what? It's okay because I'm aware now and I can fix it. Some people, they get to that stage and they freak out and they're like, I don't like this.
Yes.
I can't handle this. I'm out. And I understand, but we got to get them past that. But like, I've had many moments over the last, what's been 4.5 years since we started working together where, it was all of a sudden like, oh, the imposter syndrome stuff, you're like, wait a second. I remember I was on, somebody asked me to be on a podcast, right? And right before
I remember this. Yeah.
Before I started, I was like apologizing, going, man, I'm sorry. I hope I say something worthwhile to your audience. And I was like, how stupid is that? Of course. Of course I got something worth like, yeah, like, of course I am. We'll talk. Look, cars, man. I always wanted a Corvette.
Okay, you read my mind. My thought got you. I wanted to say, let's talk about your Corvette. How long
Yeah.
you wanted the Corvette and the process of getting
Since
it?
I was 8 years old, I wanted a Corvette that looked like something like a Hot Wheels car or something, not just like a plain one, and didn't have to be super crazy, but I wanted something. And in 2019, we had a very successful year financially, and I was like, man, this is great. And we bought our property that year, and I was like, I could actually afford to go buy a Corvette.
So
But
listen, I want
but
to
I didn't.
So Pat has wanted one since he's 8 years old, had one of the best years in business, had the money to buy it, could have bought it, and he didn't.
I didn't.
Why didn't you buy it in 19?
Well, I didn't know why at the time. I hadn't met Shawn yet, but I didn't buy the damn car. And what I figured out later was I hadn't told myself that I was worthy of having it, that I deserved to have that car.
Yes.
That one little thought. It's like, yeah, you can afford it, but I just didn't do it. And it was because, inside of me, it was like, yeah, great, you had 1 year. That's not good enough.
Yes.
And look, I'm not careless with money.
You probably will say this, you were also very motivated and you saw to take care of everybody else. How can I buy a Corvette if the kids need a new bike, or they need this, or I want to make sure Cindy has this, or I want to make sure everybody in my life has the things that I want to provide. And a lot of times we put ourselves as business owners second, third, fourth, and fifth in that line.
Yeah. You said to me, I was sharing a story with you. I thought it was so cool that I bought this bike for my kid that was like, the more expensive than my bike, and I was like, man, it's awesome though, Shawn. This bike is so cool. And you're like, yeah, but what did you do for yourself? And I was like, you don't understand, Shawn. When I was a kid, we didn't have any money. I had this shitty bike. My parents couldn't afford it. And the fact that I can just like go get my kid this dream bike so that we can bomb down the mountain together, like that is something for me. Like I feel like I'm winning. And you're like, yeah, that's awesome. You still got it. Like still doesn't count.
Yes, you still have you, man.
Yeah, and I get it. And look, when we talk about this kind of stuff, I feel sometimes like we got to be careful to make sure, we're not sending the message to people that like, hey, just YOLO, just go and dig yourself into debt or anything like that. Like just go buy.
We're talking about a situation where you could buy 2 or 3 Corvettes if you wanted to, and you're not even giving yourself permission to buy one. That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah. I just want to make sure because your audience covers all types of people, and
yes. But be responsible, but give yourself permission to buy what you can afford. A little bit, it's okay.
That's right. But look, there are things going on in my business. So we'll talk about goal wise, like why you got to set a bigger goal.
Yeah.
And not worry about like, a lot of people, what they do is as soon as they start dreaming like that, they start thinking about all the reasons why they can't have it. Like for me with that land, my wife has ridden horses all her life, and we've known each other since we were 16. I've driven through those farms for years and years and years. And I used to look at them and I said, yeah, but that's for people with, money, like this family that I grew up with that had plenty of money. Yeah. I was like, that's for people with Norton money. And nothing, and they've built their success. I mean, they deserve all their success.
Yes.
But it was like, well, but that's for people with that kind of money. And it's like, well, wait a second. Why can't I build something to generate that kind of wealth? I can do it. Yeah. So let's aim for that big thing. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I can tell you this: the business that I imagined and a lot of the things that I imagined being in place, especially when I sat down and started writing down the list with Breakthrough Academy, like what did I want my role to look like, and how did I want things to this leadership team and everything. I wrote that down as like 5-6 years out, and most of it's already in place because I dreamed big, thinking it could take me 5 to 10 years, and instead of telling myself all the reasons why it wouldn't happen, I just started thinking about all the reasons that it would, and then all the how started coming into place because my mind was open to the fact that like whatever, man, you can get this done.
Well, and the other thing too, and I want to give Pat a lot of credit for this. He doesn't sit around burning incense and meditating on this idea. He does that for less than 30 minutes every morning, and then he takes massive action all day, every day to move the needle. Now you went away from it. Did you get a Corvette?
Oh yeah, sorry, I got a Corvette, and it's awesome. It's silver, and it's got a red leather interior, and it's convertible, and it's got black mirrors and black wheels and black trim around the bottom and red brakes, and it's nasty and it's loud and it's ridiculous. It's everything I wanted it to be.
And how do you feel when you drive it? And I know it's not your daily driver. You take it for special weekend errands, taking your kid to practice. Like, how does it feel when you drive it?
It's awesome. I mean, it's fast. It's like it's a reminder that like, man, it's happening. I dreamed it, and I started taking action. And if you take action and you get the right thoughts in motion, like it all happens. I mean, that's the
when did you make a decision too, though? Did you have all the reservations on buying it? What changed inside of you to make a decision to buy it? Like, when did you say, you know what, I'm gonna give myself permission? Shawn's right. All these other people that have been telling me I could buy it. What did that look like for you?
What it looked like was, what it was I started thinking about my thoughts, right? And hey, is this thought serving me? This thought that I'm not worthy of it, it's not serving me. And so what I did for a month, I wrote, I'm worthy of every success. People get tied up in the word deserve. And I like the word worthy. I'm worthy of it.
Yes, you are.
I feel like, it's not like I deserve this, I deserve that. It's like I'm worthy of it. I'm doing the right thing for my family, for my business, for my customers. Every day, I know in my heart that I have good in me, good intentions. I care about my people. I'm trying to help them get more of what they want out of life. Am I going to end up with more because of that? Yeah, probably, but it's not my motivation when I get up in the morning. My motivation is to help them get stuff. Yeah. And so if I want to have something nice, like I'm worthy of this, enjoyment of my life. And we're here, man. We only get one shot. Yes. So I might as well have
8 years old. You may as well drive it today, not 10 years from now, right? I mean, you're too old to drive it, or too old to enjoy it the way you're enjoying it today.
That's right. But it's you mentioned, Pat does, I'm not sitting there burning incense and stuff. I mean, it literally takes me 5 minutes to do this thing. And I've been, there have been weeks where I didn't get to it 7 days. I got to it 3 days. And, you only got to do something 2 days in a row for it to be a new streak, right? Mm-hmm. So if you can have a practice like that and do it just 5 days out of the week, you're gonna set your intentions in the right direction every day. And I mean, I keep the books, man. I go back every now and then, and I'm like, man, there was something I was writing for a while that felt really good and helped me, and I'll go find, like some powerful combination of words that I came up with. And I know, to get people started, I know you're a big fan of like single words, right? I am worthy. I am enough. Mm-hmm. I am focused. Powerful. People need powerful.
I am worthy. Yeah.
Yeah. People have problems with time. For a while, I wrote, I'm a ruthless manager of my time, but I also write, I am a powerful creator of time. Right? Because there's time. I can find time all over the place.
Yes. And you create time for what's important to you. And once you make it important, you have the time for it. It really is, as we're talking about this whole episode, an inside job.
Yeah. It's been really awesome. I mean, life changing. My wife is in the program, and I've seen, major changes in her. Not that there was anything wrong with her. It's just like, it's great that we're on the same page on how we think about things. She's really this round or the last couple of rounds, I guess, really fired up about being in the leadership group. And, just a different perspective, I think partially because she hears me come home talking about the business so much, that she enjoys, hearing from other leaders of other businesses. Yeah, I know,
I love it.
it's pretty awesome.
One more thing, and I think of Bob Proctor, and when I first joined his organization and started training again in the mindset, I literally had that thought that you brought up. Who am I to do this, right? Who am I? Like Bob's talking healthy, wealthy, and having, and who am I? And I remember asking that question, and Bob Proctor's answer was, "Who are you not to, Shawn?" And I love that. And for you, Pat Readyhough, who are you to want this equestrian, to want this beautiful life, who are you not to? Like it's your birthright to chase your abundance. It's your birthright to find purpose and meaning in every single day. And the best way to do it is a little, and anybody listening, my program is 6 months, and it's because we want to get the spaced repetition of thought. But what Pat does every single day, pretty effortlessly, and he does make it look easy, he can do it in 5 minutes. Like literally 5 minutes a day to create the kind of results of a successful business, the leadership team that supports him. I know we won't talk too much about this, but I know he has some issues about driving his Corvette to the office. What are the employees going to be?
I got over that.
They got brought up on the leadership call because we have an employee that wants a Corvette, and the discussion came, and we got a guy, Brett Cohen's, CFO, wanted a Corvette in 20 years, and we got him looking at him today. I mean, he literally was like, why do I have to wait 20 years? I don't know. And literally Taylor was like, I love Pat's car, and we loved when we brought it to the office. And, so many reasons we tell ourselves for not doing so many things, our health and wellness, our relationships, they're just stories that aren't true, and they're thoughts that are creating feelings that aren't ours. And Pat's such a guiding example of how you power through, how to use just practical, everyday steps to get better mindset, to get better results in your life.
Pat,
any other tips? Anything that anybody that's just wanting to get better mindset, that might be wanting to get better process, but getting stuck in the thoughts around that, like anything you want to share, favorite books, anything else?
Favorite books. Okay. U Squared.
Okay. One of my favorites.
I don't know. If you were asking this, all your guests are probably all saying Think and Grow Rich, of course. Okay. But U Squared's great. Psycho-Cybernetics. Now I recommend listening to that because it's a longer read.
Listen to it over and over a few times, right? At least.
That one is one that I recently finished, and that's great. I think whether you want to implement EOS or not, you should probably read Traction and Rocket Fuel if you're a business leader. There's there's all the old. I mean, Think and Grow Rich is an old favorite. Back in the day, I would read. I've read Tony Robbins stuff, and I've read old Dale Carnegie stuff. How to Win Friends and Influence People. How to stop worrying and start living. That one, man, really changed my life a long time ago. And not that I was worrying a lot then, but it was just like, I don't know, it was pretty eye-opening. So I love those types of things. I think anybody should be doing some sort of little quick morning routine. There's lots of fads now. It's like the ice plunge, and then I do this, and I do this breathing. Man, I can't spend 3 hours getting ready for the day like that. But I do need to eat breakfast and drink some coffee. And I have these little notebooks that, it's small. It's like whatever, 5 by 8. Yeah. And this is like that stuff that I'm writing. I don't know if people can see it. Like, it's not much, like it does, but it's very powerful.
What's the power of writing? We'll have you drop that. Why do you like writing it?
So here's the thing about getting something into writing. And look, we got a lot of different guys in the group who have, different ways that they do it best, right? So to me, pen to paper is going to be the most powerful. But that doesn't mean that other ways of getting it down in writing aren't also powerful. But it's different than just saying it. Okay, if you're driving,
or thinking, you'll kind of just think, I'm going to think other thoughts. I'll just think them.
Here's the problem about thinking something. If you're just thinking it in your mind, like if let's say I said, I'm going to be president in my mind, the next thing my mind is going to do is give me a picture of a reason why it won't happen. And
Because
then
you believe that.
it's
Yes.
not settled. Okay. So when we say it out loud, there's a better chance that it's settled. When we put it in writing for our eyes to see it, it takes the doubt out of our mind. It settles it. It's done, at least for a little while, until our brain can find some proof that that's true. But it has to come out
Yes.
somehow. So to me, pen to paper, most powerful. And then two other powerful ways is to type it, that's fine, or dictate it so that the words are printing onto into your phone, onto a computer, into a tablet, whatever. But either way, so that you can see that it is out of your mind and on paper somewhere.
On stable
It's
ground, whether it's paper, a
stable ground.
computer screen, it's stable. It doesn't
It's
move. It doesn't get questioned. It's black and white right there. This is what I just thought, and now I have it on paper.
it's
Yes.
settled. It's happening. And I mean, look, Shawn, I do this during the day, but I also find myself sometimes in meetings with um, maybe somebody who's a challenge to deal with. Maybe I'm having a challenge with an employee. Maybe I'm at a customer's house where there's something wonky going on, and we're sitting at a table, and um, you know, I will sometimes, like in the bottom corner of the whatever I'm taking notes on in the situation, I'll find the thought that I need to have and I'll write it. You know,
Out of your
I
head.
I am a fair person and I can find a solution to any problem because I sometimes need to be reminded of that when all hell is breaking loose.
Yes.
And then I settled it, and then it's like, okay, and then it frees my mind because what's happening in that moment is that I'm going, I don't know, how am I going to get this person settled down? How am I going to get this employee on track? And then I remind myself, you're a fair person. You can solve any problem. You will always find the best solution. But if I don't put it on the paper, my mind keeps going,
Around
spinning
that
on this.
thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now I've settled that thought. Guess what happens? My brain starts delivering to me ways to resolve this situation.
Yes.
I've given it the okay. Hey, I trust you, brain. Now
Yes.
give me the answers. And then they get delivered to me very, very easily. But that's why I think writing is so important, is it just does something else. And you can find, there's guys who are very smart who have written books about this, who will talk about this and the science of it. It's true.
Yeah.
Um,
No,
but
it is.
also just apply it.
Yeah.
That-
And it is. And once you get in, if you're liking what you're listening, if you're a new listener to the podcast, there's so much. Just go on any of your platforms and type in the subconscious mind and just start listening. I mean, I was listening, Pat, the other night to a neurosurgeon, neuroscientist talking about the vibration of the heart, and you can measure it from up to 6 feet away. And that's why women
yeah.
on their menstrual cycle get in sync if they live together because of the vibration coming off them. And it was fascinating to hear a scientist talk about some of the terms and words we use and to just have it reinforced. And so, obviously, I'm the host of this podcast. I geek out on this material. Today's guest, he probably geeks out as much or more than I do on the power of his own mind, the power of him to create better days for not only himself, but everybody he loves and cares about. Pat, thank you for being a guest. Thank you for.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I always love jamming with you. We always, whether we record something or not, when you and I get firing, it's like, yeah, and this and that. I love this stuff because I always pick up something, some other thought. I'm like, oh, I can use that. I can program that thought.
Yeah, no, and same for me. What is that statement you say to your kids to reframe again? I'm today's going to be a great day. Or
Oh, I said, yeah. So I say, it's going to be a great day, Sam. And he says, it's going to be a great day, Dad. I said, what are you looking forward to? And he tells me something that he's looking forward to that would challenge him. He's got to tell me the positive outcome. I'm looking forward to getting caught up in chemistry class. Great.
Yes. And I have people that want to get in shape and say they're about it exercising. I'm looking forward to exercising and feeling good today, right? You can use that to reframe any challenging. We're going to leave that as the last nugget here.
Here's what it is. I'm looking. That's your challenge. I'm looking forward to what is it? whatever the workout is, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to sweating
45
my
minutes on
ass
the
off.
treadmill. Yeah, something I hate is a treadmill.
I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to that feeling. I'm looking forward to being tired after my workout, like anything that pulls some emotion.
yeah. Well, Pat,
Right on,
thank you
man.
for being a guest. I am looking forward to not this challenging situation, but the beautiful scenario when I get to come sit on your front porch and look at your amazing
Do it.
property that you built. I can't wait for
Come
that
on
day.
back.
I, I
Oh,
think I think that day's coming sooner than you think. I think you're gonna have that property that's your worthy goal, and I can't wait to spend some time at that location with
right
you.
on, man.
All right. Have a beautiful rest of the day. Thanks. Thanks for listening. And if you like what you heard today, all we ask is a like, a share, subscribe, pass the message, pass the word on. Let's get more people we love and care about thinking better thoughts so they get better results in their life and we can all live our lives in freedom, abundance, fun, and love.
And just like that, we've laid another brick in the foundation of your incredible journey. Thanks for tuning into the Inner Blueprint podcast with Shawn Feurer, your navigator through the maze of mindset and success. Remember, every tool you need is already in your belt. It's all about how you use them to craft the masterpiece that is your life and business. Now, don't let the momentum stop here. Follow me on social media and subscribe wherever you get your podcast to never miss an episode filled with the blueprints to your best self.